Hi, welcome to the CAFMA Connect. I'm your host, Fire Chief Scott Freitag, and I have two wonderful guests with me today, Captain Rick Mongo Olson and Erik Trujillo.
Yes, sir.
Gentlemen, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And what I'd like to say is thank you for being here again today to record the podcast. And this time, Kathy, we have confirmed that we are recording sound, correct?
Under the bus.
She tested it. We're good.
Under the bus.
We're tested.
Typical
You would expect nothing less.
Nothing less.
So, gentlemen, we have you on this week because we just did a recruit process and hiring, and you were both on the recruit panel, the initial oral boards. And one of the things I want to point out is that, Erik, you were a reserve, so you have background in firefighting, but what we've started doing is adding a non-operations person to the firefighter oral interview panel. Our purpose with that, and Kathy served on one of those, is to maybe pick up on some intricacies during the interview that we as company officers, engineers, firefighters may not pick up on, some of the other cues. So, Erik, for you, how was it sitting on this oral board?
For me, it was an absolute treat. This was such an impressive group of young men and women that to me really sold who they were, why they want to be here, why they want to be in this industry. It is definitely a calling for individuals. So you, as we mentioned the first round, you can really see and pick up on BS when someone's in a interview like that. And to be able to sit in and, like I said, to really hear what these people had to say, it was such a great experience. All 4 days, like I said earlier, it was really, I looked forward to it every day to see what are we going to get today. Right. So, and it never disappointed. Well, not never, but it really hardly disappointed. Overall was just an outstanding experience. So,
Mongo, how was it for you? What did you think?
Oh, it was good. There's a new process in place. Well, it's new to me.
Right.
You guys have been doing it for a while. I've sat on many of these panels before. It was much more structured. This one has allowed us to actually ask some questions for clarification, which helped.
Right.
As you remember, on a couple of occasions. Definitely. We got to be careful with that.
Sure.
We want to keep it fair. But if I didn't quite understand what somebody was saying, if they gave an acronym or something, then I want some clarification on that. But it went really, really well.
Yeah.
I thought it was good.
Well, I think it's good if somebody doesn't quite get to the point, you can help them a little bit by saying, well, let me rephrase, or let me ask you a follow-up. And we do that in the chief's interviews as well, as we'll ask a follow-up question when they say something. And especially if it's something personally, like, here's something in my life, and you go, wow, that's really interesting. Can you give me a little more information on that? There's nothing unfair about following up on a personal item that someone brought up. Right. You want to be careful with it, but there's opportunity. And I do believe that the direction that we've gone, where we're truly looking for the character of the person, we're looking for the fit to the organization. And that's, I think, a little bit different than what we were looking for in the past, where it was more structured.
Yes. And that kind of allowed people, well, it didn't really allow. Yeah, it did. It did give opportunity for people to be able to learn how to test and then beat the test. And then we wind up with people and maybe we didn't really think they were who we thought they were. So this one, it is a little bit more personal. You have a little bit more latitude, a lot more latitude in the Chiefs interviews than we do. I still believe that. But yeah, it was nice to be able to ask those questions. And the new electronic form was kind of cool, working on the tablets.
Yeah, iPads.
So, iPads.
We're iPads for you. We still had notepads.
Oh.
Typically, I don't take any notes, really. Oh. I pass notes to people on the panel with me, which I was doing this time. Look at Erik Merrill and Training Chief Merrill and say, I want to hire this person. He'd just look at me and shake his head. And then we would.
That's kind of messed up. What about the person sitting on the other side of the desk who sees you passing notes, man? I didn't think about that.
Well, in the end, when I offer them a job on the spot, they're pretty happy.
Yeah, I guess it works out.
Which normally doesn't happen, but you guys are put through, I guess, such a great group of candidates. I mean, the 16 candidates that you all set forward, every single one of them was hireable. We certainly want to encourage them to come back and apply again this fall or late summer when we put out applications, because they were really good. But I think you said you saw some of the 38, because really when we look at applications, we had over 70. 38 were deemed okay to move forward with oral interviews. And while we're not getting the numbers, and we talk about the numbers a lot, right? We're not getting hundreds, 200, 300, whatever. And the Valley's not getting 3,000, 4,000 anymore. But the reality is, if you need 20 candidates or you need 10 candidates, you need 10 or 20 quality. And if the numbers are lower, but the quality's there, I don't need 100 candidates. I need this many really good candidates. And it seemed like of the 38 that moved forward, only a couple you felt were, no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
But a majority were, I don't know, these folks still have potential for the future.
Yes, there was definitely quite a few that we sent forward for possibilities in case the top section that you guys were presented with,
Right.
for some reason didn't work out. Then, hey, look into this person, look into that. We sent several people like that. And I agree with you, Chief. Even the ones who didn't get picked up this time, still in that top group, if they can just try again.
Right.
We're looking for tenacity. We're looking for resilience. That's part of the job. If you're going to fail, get up, dust yourself off, try again. So,
Well, Firefighter Ducharme's a good example of that. Engineer Jake Brunk, your engineer, another good example of that. They applied here, didn't make it, applied here, didn't make it, applied here, made it, multiple times, checked themselves, looked at what they were doing, and came back and were ultimately successful. And both are, in my opinion, I don't work with them in the field, but both are absolutely fantastic employees and members of our team.
yes.
Now, Zach's just, that guy's an animal.
He's a machine.
He is ripped. He looks kind of like Captain America. And I think what we need to do is get him a Captain America shirt to wear under his shirt. So if the call requires something more than just a regular firefighter, he can just rip that uniform shirt and have Captain America right there on his chest.
I can make it happen. I can make that happen.
It would be good. The only downside is I think one of the new guys we hired is going to be a lot faster than Zach. Maybe not as strong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speed-wise, very
I think
fast.
so.
That individual, absolute gentleman, by the way.
Yes, 100%.
Oh, loved talking to him. 1.5 seconds, was it?
45.7 seconds in a quarter mile, the 400.
I don't even drive that fast.
No.
So I don't know what we're talking about, but
Here's the message, though, that I would like to give to Chief Dura and Prescott Fire Department. When the hose cart races come up this year in July, we are absolutely going to beat you. Because what we looked for in this group was athleticism, and we found it. So we hired not just for character, but for, can you beat Prescott with the hose cart?
that was actually the fifth question. On
That
the
was
roll.
the question. And so I think I'm fairly confident that we have accomplished that.
I think so.
I would say so.
And it's going to be part of the recruit academy training.
Hose carts?
Hose cart races.
Hose cart training?
Yeah, it's going to be hose cart training. That's part of it.
It is fun watching them in that academy. It is, especially when they go through the grinder, et cetera, and just seeing, as you said, the athleticism and so forth. They're all just unbelievable.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that too.
Well, and Erik, the first time we recorded today, because this is the second time, just to remind everybody, because we didn't have audio the first time, the red X thing. Anyways, sorry, Kathy.
No, you're not.
You're right. I'm not. But, one of the things we didn't talk about earlier is your connection, being the warehouse manager with the new employees that come in, the new firefighters. What's your role and responsibility in bringing these folks into the organization?
So once they do get put through and approved, they come see me, and it's a whirlwind. From head to toe, I need to get them dressed in uniform, in PPE and equipment and this and that. And I don't mean just me, Josh and Yvonne help. So it's a group effort getting this all done. It's an expensive journey.
Right.
I will say across the board, and I just finished the last one, number 13. I just finished him before coming here.
And we're going to talk about him.
Yeah, he is floating. Every one of them just cannot wait to start, and they can't believe that everything. So I get this too, and I get this too, and yes, everything. Well, I have my own boots. Should I just wear those? No. The department makes sure you have new boots.
Right.
So I said, this is very much a professional organization, and that's how we want you to look.
Right.
It's not just I'm a firefighter and I look good in a tight shirt. Russ. But just,
Guns N' Roses.
Guns N' Roses. But it really is. And it's exciting for them. And it's exciting for me because I get to see them on day one when they come in for us. And then when they pick up their gear, I feel like Santa Claus.
Right.
And so they get all their stuff and they go on their merry way. And then I get to watch them grow in their careers.
That's awesome.
It's amazing to see that. Captain Polligan, we were in the same academy, and now he's a captain, soon to be chief when Chief Naminsky retires. Well, at least he'll test anyway.
Right.
But just, again, to be able to watch him, I get to see the full circle. So it's been exciting for me. I love my role in this. It's pretty exciting.
Oh, that's awesome. So, Mongo, what did you see that you liked in the people that you interviewed this year and the candidates? What was something that you saw that stood out?
The authenticity is the thing that stood out for me.
Right.
It wasn't the canned answers. The authenticity and the ability for many of these individuals to properly articulate their thoughts in a way that helped us just to see who they are. And it was believable. So either they're really good at fibbing or they're authentic. And I like to think I'm a pretty good judge of character. I honestly think that this group, especially the top section, even some of the ones that were down lower that didn't quite score as high, I think the authenticity was the thing that stood out for me. And the background of some of these people is pretty amazing too.
It's amazing. Stories are amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Eric, what was something that stood out to you?
I honestly, not to jump on board with that answer, but that's exactly what it was.
Right.
Just seeing how real they were, what they brought, their stories. Gabino's story just absolutely amazing. Cowther from North Africa, dealing with, again, just hearing their backgrounds and so forth. And it was just, you could tell this wasn't BS. They were literally who they said they were. And again, meeting them after the fact, getting them set, it carried on. So I know we made the right decisions. Every one of them, they were genuine in their interviews.
Well, in talking a little bit about Gabino, he was absolutely sincere. His background, history, story was amazing. And he closed the interview. And the way that we recommend you close an interview is, I would like to ask you to hire me because I think I'm the right person for the job.
The Chief's interview you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And Gabino said, I really appreciate the time today, and I just want you to know that this is where I want to work. And if I'm not picked up this time, I'm going to apply again next time. And if I'm not picked up, I'm going to apply again. And I just had my house delivered off Kachina today, and they're setting it up, and I'm going to commute to work in the Valley until I get picked up here because this is where I want to be. And I'm like, we got to hire this guy. We have to hire him. And, it's great. And I want to point this out because we called out Zach and some others, and we'll get to number 13 because we definitely want that out there. But Gabino is actually Leo's brother-in-law. And the difference between them is that when we ask them to tell us a little bit about themselves, Gabino has an amazing story, and he's able to put it together very succinctly. When we asked that same question to Leo in his firefighter interview, after like 4 hours, we were in the fourth grade, right? But we couldn't stop him. We had to see where this went. Even though he's sitting across from us, we're like, no, we got to hear the whole thing. So it wasn't 4 hours, but it was 45 minutes to get through that one question. And so he became a training tech and wasn't picked up as a firefighter. But since then, he's learned how to be more succinct with that because Leo's life, there's chapters. And you got to take a chapter at a time because it's very interesting background. And then number 13. So we offered number 13 a job because Caden Birch, firefighter medic with us, unfortunately is leaving for Myrtle Beach. Completely understand the decision, but big loss for us. We wish him all the best. So we had an opening, and we hired Matthew Lind. Now, Matthew currently works for Priority as an EMT out at 62. His nickname is Jaime. And there's a picture that goes along with this that I'm going to submit to Kathy that she can use as part of this podcast because, Mongo, when you and I talked earlier, you said Jaime has to stick. We have to make it stick. So the best way to try to get that out is to let our 11s or 12s of listeners and viewers, all y'all out there, this is Jaime. And I think that's an awesome way to. But you know what? Nicknames in the fire service. Mongo, Papa T.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a sign of affection.
It is.
But when you submit the picture, you have to submit his picture and the picture of him. You got to put them together. Okay.
I'm giving them both.
Okay, very good.
I'm giving them both.
Very good, sir. Can I talk about some things that people shouldn't do?
Yes,
leading up to
please.
all
Talk
this?
about some things that you saw, starting with you. Some of the things you saw in the interviews, people who didn't move forward. What were some of the things that kept you from moving them forward?
Okay, so attention to detail is pretty important. I mean, it's going to sound, that makes sense, right? But this is an example of what I'm talking about. If a person shows us a resume that shows they have military experience, this happened, and the person doesn't speak to the fact that they have military experience, or they have a certain credential, they don't speak to the fact that they have that because they're so wound up
Right.
and nervous. That really doesn't, if it's not said, we can't put it down.
Right.
We're not allowed to include the resume with the oral board and then just glean information off that. It's not
Right.
allowed. So if you did it, you got to say it. The other thing is the canned answers. So saying the buzzwords. We love buzzwords, right?
Right. It's fire
Dedication and
service.
duty and integrity. And hurrah! Well, okay, how does that relate to the candidate?
Yeah.
If the candidate can be sincere enough to show or demonstrate, explain how that relates to them, I think that's going to be the best way of doing it. Say the words, that's fine. But if you say it, you got to explain what that means to you.
What does it mean, and how do you emulate that? Right. If integrity is something that's important to you, and you can talk about integrity without even using the word integrity. Right.
Yeah.
It's part of an interview skill process. What were some things that you saw, Erik?
On the bottom end, it was kind of disappointing because I know when I went with my oral board, I was so excited to be there, and unfortunately the nerves got to me, and I ended up not doing well in my first round. But knowing that you have this opportunity, take that time to work on your oral boards. When you're giving an answer, and there's books out there, there's things you can get online that will, here's typical oral board questions, study them, learn them, and practice them. Practice in front of a mirror. We have several engine companies out there who are happy to sit with these guys and listen and give them that oral board and critique it. Utilize that. That is the biggest tool you can have. And unfortunately, especially on the definite no's, we had one individual whose interview was done in like 11 minutes. And it was like, that's it?
More
okay.
depth.
He
Yes.
didn't study the department.
Nothing. Nothing. And that was the other thing too, was know where you're going. You know, this is we're not a small organization. We're not huge, but we're not small. And there is a lot to offer here. There's so many different ways we serve the community.
Sure.
So investigate that. Learn about us. If this is really where you want to be, and that's what you're telling us, then what do you know? Well, it's in a nice area.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, well, we know, but why do you want to work here? I mean, there's other organizations in nice areas too. So again, learn our organization. Why do you want to be here, and invest yourself in it? You don't have the job yet, but you could.
Yeah.
So, and that could be what sets you apart from the others.
Well, I think one of the things I liked when I talked about sincerity, one of the things I don't like to see is just trying to regurgitate our compass to us, right? Or blow smoke about the podcast. Listen, we know this thing isn't great. Kathy does a great job. It's not Kathy. It's me being the host of this thing. So we're not like viral or anything. But if there's what people shared who got hired, that's not the reason they got hired, but the way they approached it was, I watched the podcast and I like the interaction between the people because the interaction is real, right? This is not, we don't script this. We don't do any of this. Whatever comes out of our mouth. Yeah. And we're definitely at times taking shots at each other, having some fun, poking fun. You know, it's a good time like that. And I think when someone can describe that interaction as opposed to just saying, I like the podcast. Well, what do you like about it? Right?
Right.
Or I can recite the PRIDE acronym. Awesome. But what does it mean?
Right.
How do you live those things in your life? You know, that's what we want to hear. And that's what we heard from all 16 candidates that came in. It was fantastic. And even the last recruit group that came through, a lot of sincerity in that group, and the one before that. So I think the change that you talked about, Mongo, and the initial oral board is getting us more of those genuine people.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that I like to talk to people about in their interview prep is exit drills in the home.
Okay.
Right? We do that in the community. So if you don't practice an exit drill before you have a fire in your home, when that smoke or smoke alarm wakes you up in the middle of the night, and if there's heavy smoke in your house, I've seen people get lost in that and not be able to make it out.
In their own house.
And
that they're used to.
Yeah, in their own house that they are intimately familiar with, except at 3 o'clock in the morning when there's high heat conditions and heavy smoke conditions. They can't see, they can't breathe, and they're just not thinking clearly. Now, that's a little extreme, but if you compare that to an oral interview panel, when you go in, there's no way not to be nervous in an interview.
No way.
Right? So you have to be able to practice how to articulate who you are and share who you are in an interview so that you can get your message across without getting lost in your own head. And if you can hold it together for the first or second question, then typically you'll calm down a little bit as you go. And, when I practice for my Chiefs interviews here, I spent days and weeks and hours going through it, but you would not know because none of them were canned answers. They were true, sincere answers. I just practiced how to be able to deliver that. And I'll just share this with you. I don't know, a lot of people know. When I went for the interview in Chino, my wife's aunt and uncle live in North Scottsdale in a gated community. So they're not firefighters, right? They loaned me a car to drive up to Chino where I've never been before. It was a pearl white Infiniti, fully loaded vehicle.
Nice.
And I drove up here and I'm like, oh no. So I parked that car outside in the parking lot. Clearly they could see it. So before we started the interview, they said, is there anything you'd like to say before we get started? I said, yes, there is. That car out there is not mine. I did not rent it. My wife's aunt and uncle loaned it to me, so I didn't have to rent a car to get up here. I drive a 4-wheel drive extended cab Chevy pickup just like everybody else. And quite honestly, that broke the ice because they started laughing, I started laughing, and it put me at ease. And so if you have an opportunity like that afforded to you in an interview
For humor?
humor,
Do it.
get it out there because
If you can.
humor, appropriate humor like that kind of eases the tension.
It humanizes things.
Right.
We're like we said this earlier. You're looking for the fit.
Right.
I can teach you how to turn a wrench. I can teach you how to grab a hose. I can teach you all those things. I cannot teach you to be a sincere, genuine person.
Right.
So exactly that. We're looking for that. And I felt that we really did send you those candidates. It was such a great experience knowing, God, we are sending him some gems.
Yeah.
So, and honestly, I think at one point we even said, oh, he's going to have his hands full. He's not going to know who to take.
And we did. And I called you both afterwards to thank you for all the effort in sending such great candidates forward. And it wasn't just me. Chief Para, he's like, I've never sat in anything like this before in my life. Now, I don't want to take away from any of the other recruits that we've had or new firefighters because we've got some great people or you wouldn't be here right now. But the sincerity that came across from some of these folks was so great, so different than what we've seen before, that we're like at the end of 16, how do we get this down? And I'd like to point out, because some were confused. They're like, I thought you were only supposed to hire 10.
Yeah, 10 was what we had, right?
That was an arbitrary number set by Chief Rose. And, sometimes you just can't stick within the rules like that.
Don't you outrank Chief Rose?
I do, but Chief Rose also controls the budget.
Oh, very good.
So, and Chief Barnes together.
Okay.
So about midway through, I stepped out and I talked to Cody, and I'm like, "Hey, man, we're gonna have to talk." And he's like, "We're not talking." I'm like, yeah, "We're gonna have to talk." So we got it down to 12, and he's like, "Okay." I was waiting for 14, so 12 was good. Like I said, we could hire all 16. We still have to be fiscally responsible. And then when Caden leaving, we ended up with 13. So we did pretty good. And like I said, the other two candidates that weren't picked up there, we did offer one job and a person that accepted one in another place. Golder Ranch, great department.
Yep.
So he's going there, but the other two candidates, good candidates. We want to see him back.
Cool. Yeah.
Well, and honestly, on that note, for those that didn't make this round, please test again. You didn't miss by much. It was such a tight race. So I'm really hoping that group can come back through, because again, after every interview, we would all talk, and it was, oh, man, they're right there. Just that little tweak, and they might have been in that top 16. So I'm really hoping we can see some of those faces back.
Yeah. And a shout out to Captain Seats, who was in there with you, training captain here. We just can't fit everybody in the room, but we do want to point out there were 3 people on the panel, plus Lacey from HR, who did a phenomenal job in HR with that. And then Patty was in with us.
Yeah.
So just a great group of people. And Mago, any closing thoughts or words of encouragement for people looking for a job here?
Yeah. Study the department you want to work for and make sure you're prepared by practicing your oral board skills. And get up to the fire station and see what the fire station is like. Some people just threw their name in the hat. Some of those bottom people we saw threw their name in the hat, and they were just seeing if something would stick, maybe they'd get a job.
Yeah.
Don't even waste your time if that's what you're going to do, honestly. But if you really want a job, stick with it, study it, learn it, and then if you fail, try again, and then try again. Because we need tenacious people. We need resilience. And that's what I got to say about that. I can't think of anything else. I have another closing remark at the very end, but nothing.
Perfect. Baba T, you had some great words of encouragement just a minute ago. Is there anything you would like to add in closing?
Come in, be yourselves, practice those oral boards, be ready for those questions so you're a lot more articulate and in your delivery. I cannot say this enough. You got to know our organization so
Absolutely.
that by doing so, you're already plugging yourself in, and no, this is why I want to be here, not just because it's a beautiful area we live in.
Right.
So really study this organization, really study your answers, and be ready. Just put the time in. If this is truly your dream job, then it shouldn't be that big of a deal to do that.
Right. Well, and talk to our folks, right? One of the things we heard consistently when we asked candidates why CAFMA, part of the answer was, listen, I've tried to go talk to other agencies, and none were as welcoming as the crews at CAFMA. We knock on the door, make a phone call, and people are like, yeah, come on in. Let's visit. Let's chat. Because our folks really want to invest in the next generation of people we're bringing in, because they have to work with them for 24 hours. The other thing I heard, and this, again, a shout out to all the crews out there in the field, your stations are immaculate. Some of them are older, still clean and immaculate. Your equipment, immaculate. And that just goes to the pride that our folks have in this agency and the equipment that's been entrusted to us.
Yeah.
So I thought those were great things for people to recognize, because those are factual things. They're not just trying to blow smoke. We see it in the stations.
Absolutely.
Yep. So, Mago, you said you had a closing statement.
Oh, yeah, I think we have an advertisement, don't we?
We do.
We have a sponsor?
We do have
All right.
an advertisement.
This segment's brought to you by Caramel. I don't know of who, but it says caramel. These are British caramels. It's the great way to say, I'm sorry. Don't spread the hate. Give these to your mate. Brought to you by Caramel.
Yeah. And these were the I'm sorry that we're recording this twice in one day. But what happened is that we did this a second time. We actually went longer, but I know she's not saying anything about that now, but we will close it out. So
very good.
For anyone interested in a career in the fire service, don't forget to visit our website at cazfire.gov. We will be hiring again in July or August, and there's going to be a lot of hiring in the next few years. So if you're looking for a fire service career, you want to be with a progressive and innovative agency with a lot of just fantastic people, remember to come see us.
Hope to see you soon.